Mike Shields, and then Robbie's a guy that you know well, and has had him speak. The other thing you may not know about Rick is that he's also, in addition to broadcasting, the executive director of the St. Louis chapter of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So you've had Ollie, I know, out and speak at some of your events in the past. So talk about Ollie.
So Ollie's a wonderful guy. Ollie's a guy you want to have as your next door neighbor. Ollie and Amber is his wife. He has two of the cutest little girls you'd ever want to see. And Ollie's is the youngest manager in baseball. So he is, he's got a lot. He's gone very quickly through the Cardinals minor league system as a leader, and he's a quiet leader. He's not going to be like win one for the Gipper Rob. If you want that guy, he's not that guy. He's going to be much more measured in what he says, and he's a man of deep faith, as Rob mentioned. And I just love him. I like him a lot. He was very close with Mike Shields, actually, and they were buddies. And kind of a odd change now for him to be the manager and Mike to be with another team. But that also happens in baseball, and so I think you're going to like Ollie Marmol. The thing that he said in the first meeting, apparently he had a very short meeting the first day, which is what Whitey Herzog used to do. Whitey Herzog's meetings were never more than 2 minutes. He hated meetings. He couldn't stand. I played for Tommy Lasorda too, who loved meetings because he loved to talk forever. But Whitey was just, my first meeting with Whitey Herzog, remind me where I was. My first meeting with Whitey Herzog, I had, I'm a college graduate, I got a pen, I'm ready to take notes about the meeting. I'm in big league camp, and I'm like, wow, there's a pursuer. And he goes, okay, here's the deal. You got 3 rules. You gotta work hard, you gotta be on time. The third rule is if you get thrown in jail, call me first. So I'm starting to write the rules down. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not writing that down. I'm not going to jail, for goodness sake. But Whitey, and then he says, okay, just go out and work hard, get it. Now, Whitey had a lot of corollaries to those 3 rules, and he had coaches that he empowered to enforce a lot of other things. So he was definitely in charge of what was going on, but kind of a short and sweet guy. And I think Ollie's short and sweet without Whitey's, old school gruffness, I guess. But I really do think you're going to like Ollie. He has played college baseball. He was a Cardinal minor leaguer, and he said, he woke up one day and realized he can't keep hitting 209 and playing in the minor leagues. He's got to do something else for a living. I think the players really respond to him. He's bilingual. He's Dominican, but he's born in Florida, born and raised in Orlando, but speaks fluent Spanish. But I almost never hear him speak Spanish. I don't know if you ever, almost never. So if he's on the mound with a Latin, I think he's speaking English to them most of the time. He can do it, but he's certainly that's a help in coaching in today's baseball to have the command of the Spanish language.
One of the things about Whitey was he always said he was both the general manager and manager of the Cardinals at the same time. He said I could go to sleep and have a meeting. That's right. That's right.
Whitey was phenomenal, by the way, and I mean Whitey Herzog, really was the guy that got me into the big league. So I'm thankful for him personally. But he was the kind of leader that you've been around people like this in whatever work you're in, where there's somebody that knows how to get the best out of everybody in your organization. They're just really good at that. They put people in positions to succeed, and that's what Whitey was really just a genius at, I think.
One of the things I want to ask Rick too, and then we'll open it up to questions. What do you think, thinking about your days as a player playing for Whitey and the game today versus a different game? What's good about today's game, or what do you wish was more like the game?
Well, I think today's game is the things I don't. Let me start with the things I don't like. The things I don't like about today's game. I don't like the emphasis on power and strength from both hitters and from pitchers. I think baseball is an art. It's not just a physical thing. It's a mental thing. It's an art. It's not. I don't mind analytical stuff, numbers. I'm an engineering major, so I like numbers. But baseball it's like talking about Vincent Van Gogh painting and talking about it in terms of paint by numbers. That's not it. It's an art. There's a lot to what he did as a painter, and a lot what Adam Wainwright does as a pitcher. That if you're only talking about miles per hour and what they can bench press, you're missing the boat. So I don't like that. I think what I do like is baseball's accessibility to fans now. When I played in 1984, think about how old you were. I know how old I was. In 1984, not in 1884, 1984. We had 50 games on television, 50 out of 162. They were all on radio, but only 50 games were televised, and we almost never played on a national game, almost never, until October. We did that a few times. But the we used to call it the game of the world. There was one game, one national game that people could watch, and it was on Saturday. It was called the game of the world. It was the game of the week. We called it the game of the world. We kind of got nervous about it. That was like, wow, everybody's watching us today. So think about how fans can now access baseball 24/7. There's the MLB Network. There's MLB.com. People are watching on their phone. You can listen. I mean, so not just the radio side of it, but just the information about the game for somebody that really loves it. You can find information in a lot of places, and I do like that.
What do you think is the one key that will make this club successful this year? You got to pick one single key to make this club successful.
I think they have to start out well and maintain offensive punch. I think the last few years with the team, there's been kind of bad, slow starts offensively, and then you look at the end of the year and they say, well, they did okay, well, they got okay, and they won 85 games, whatever, but I just think with Arenado and Goldschmidt and a normal Paul DeYoung and Tommy Edman, who's a great player to me. Tommy, I always say if I had 9 Tommy Edmans, I'll beat you. You can take 9 of whoever, I'll win with 9 Tommy Edmans because he's a player. But Dylan Carlson's going to be better, Bader's going to be better, Tyler O'Neill, you hope that he makes improvements. He had a great year last year. But just some thump early to where people say, we're playing the Cardinals, we might give up 6 runs today, 7 runs, not just 1 or 2. And that was kind of a problem the last couple of years.
Who's got some questions?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, whenever the Cardinals got on their run,
Yes.
they won, what was it?
17 in a row.
17 in a row.
Right.
And Schilt ranked half the starters off.
Yeah.
I really believe that was the ruin of the Cardinals' role. What do you think?
I respectfully disagree with you, but I understand a lot of fans think that. A lot of fans.
Are you paid by Schilt?
No, I'm not paid by Schilt. I am buddies with him, but I think we were all expecting that because there's a time he was already pushing playing everybody 17 days in a row, and the point is, you got to gear. I mean, rest is important in the game too, and the travel, and honestly, the momentum is part of it for sure. And the question is, when the Cardinals won 17 games in a row, then didn't play all their regulars. I can tell you that every other team, every time we play somewhere, they all say the same thing. I mean, they all say, I can't believe Molina's not catching today. We're trying to win. Well, that's the game you're going to. I mean, he's played 14 in a row. He's got to rest every once in a while. And it's frustrating if you're the fan going to see Yadier Molina. John Mabry talks about he would fill in for Mark McGuire the year where McGuire was so good.
Not if you won 17 in a row.
Well, you're entitled. I mean, that's what makes baseball great. You
The other
can
thing
do that,
I remember
right?
about that 17 in a row was that clinched the playoff spot.
Exactly.
So they were already in the
Yeah,
playoffs.
I get it.
So they got to where they needed to go. So, but Mabry would show up for batting practice and he'd be being booed at Busch Stadium. Going, boo, you're playing. We want McGuire. And he lives in St. Louis, poor guy. But I get it. You want to see you want to see the guys every day.
I can tell you a story that relates to that. My favorite player as a kid growing up, and a lot of you are old enough to remember this, same guy's Ken Boyer. Was my favorite player as a kid growing up. First game I ever, honestly, to God, that's a true story. First game I ever went to Busch Stadium to see the Cardinals play. Bought my dime scorecard. They had a 3-printed starting lineup in there. Phil Gagliano's playing third base.
Poor Phil.
So
Another guy from St. Louis, and you booed him.
I probably didn't. My mom was there. She probably wouldn't let me go in. Who else has a question?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So what do you think of the universal DH, and what do you think the Cards are going to do to fill that spot?
So the DH, I actually spent some time thinking about that today, how I would answer that question. And I just have to tell you, I don't like it. I just don't like the DH. Now, I understand we got to do it. But the DH, to me, makes the game more boring. And we don't need to make the game more boring. We need to make it more interesting. And I've got to think about how to describe to Cardinal fans who are used to that decision that's made in the 5th or 6th or 7th inning about putting a guy in or taking him out based on whether the pitcher's coming up, which I think is a part of baseball. And so now we don't have that. And so I think it just takes away some strategy to me. I think, right now, the candidates that they're talking about are Juan Yepes, who had a big year in AAA. I talked to his manager about him, and he had very glowing things. He said he's a hitter. He's not just a power hitter. He's a hitter. He's a really good player. And then maybe Duke Barr from the left side, and maybe DeYoung. And there's not like the prototypical DH guy that other teams have, like Nelson Cruz or Kyle Schwarber, who's another name that we've been talking about because we probably need another left-handed bat too. And so it'd be nice to have a left-handed power guy, if you know of any. If you know of a left-handed guy that can hit 30 or 40 home runs, I know some people that might sign him.
The other thing about rule changes, what do you think it's not going to happen this year, but it sounds like it's a possibility for next year, is the banning of the shift.
Yeah, so there's talk about banning the shift. They're going to start some things in AAA, including a pitch clock, which I refuse to call a pitch clock because I'm in the pitcher's union. So it's not a pitcher's clock, it's a hitter's clock. Get in the box. If he's in the box, I'll throw it. I mean, I can't throw it if there's nobody standing there. So honestly, what people, I don't even think people in the commissioner's office understand that because none of the people that work in there or with the players union used to be pitchers. None of them. The pitcher's not going to get a sign from the catcher until the batter's feet are set in the box. Because the catcher's going to look, is he close to the plate? Is he off the plate? Is he moved up? I mean, so you see the Molina looking down at the feet of the player. He's checking where they're standing. It's not just Molina, all catchers do that. So he sees that, then he puts down the pitch, then the pitcher says yes or no and throws. But if the guy's not in the box yet, you can't throw the pitch. But what I do like about the potential of having this hitter's clock is if you've only got 20 seconds to pitch, guys don't have time to shift anyway. You don't even have to ban the shift, they don't have time to do it. To have the third baseman run over and switch with the second baseman on a 2-1 count, which the Dodgers do and Pirates do. I mean, that's just so boring. It's like they're playing musical chairs. It's just not interesting baseball.
And if you want to get more action on the field, I mean, that's the way to do it. Get more hits, you'll have more guys on base.
No doubt.
Hey Rick, it seems like the Cardinals every year are very competitive, one of the best franchises.
Yeah.
And they're always kind of right there. It seems like at times one or two moves going to put them over. But this year with Carpenter, Fowler, Martinez, and Miller, that's $60 million.
Right. That's right.
And I know some people are getting raised, but we all expected a pitching upgrade.
Yes.
And instead, and no offense to these three that we signed, I'm a pretty good baseball fan. I've really never heard of the three. And now you're saying possibly Flaherty's out, but then you got Wainwright, who's one of my favorites all the time, but he's 40, almost 41.
Baseball
You got Nicholas that's pitched, 1 year out of 3 or 4.
Right.
Hudson's just coming off of Tommy John.
Yeah.
Everybody you got on the pitching staff is a question mark.
Totally.
If Flaherty can't pitch, I mean, so it seems like right now they could have utilized some of that money that they cleared off the books, and I kind of insinuated they were going to, but I don't see any upgrades.
So 2 things on that. I don't disagree with anything that you just said, but I would say Steven Matz is one of the guys that made 14-game winner for Toronto in the American League. So they did spend somebody, but he's not Verlander and Greinke, and he's not those guys either.
But Hicks and Reyes, can you really count on them? I mean,
it's a good question. I mean, so the only other thing I'd say, and John Mozeliak's famous for saying this, and you can agree with it or not, but John Mozeliak always says in spring training, I've heard him say, he always says, I don't care as much what my team is on opening day as I care about what my team is on August 1st. So the point is, if your team gets off to a good start, and you're a mid-market club like the Cardinals are, I think the typical strategy is if you're getting off to a good start, then you go out and get Larry Walker, or you go out and get the people in the past, Cesar Cedeno back in my age, or you go out and spend the money. You can do that via trade, or do that at the trading deadline. And so I wonder if the Cardinals, I get the feeling that's their approach. And so let's see how good we are, and then go all in before we.
But every pitcher they got, other than maybe Matz, is a question mark health-wise.
I don't disagree with that.
And then you expected to get some relief help.
Right.
These 3 pitchers they signed. Seriously, I never even heard of them.
So the other thing to add to what you just said, the other concern, is that there's a 13 pitcher maximum this year. So you can't have 40 guys out there and just, okay, this guy doesn't look good today, bring in another one and bring in another. You can't keep doing that as much. So you're going to have to kind of settle on some guys that can pitch 1 or 2 or 3 innings. And you know, Whitgren is a guy, you know, I can say I've heard of him, but that's about it. I do know his big win numbers are pretty good, 3.5 ERA, which is good for these days. I mean, he's not all-star guy. No, he's definitely not. The guy that I'm most worried, I guess, regretful that we don't have from last year is Garcia. Luis Garcia was unhittable. He's throwing 99 miles an hour, throwing strikes, and it's like.
So why didn't they sign him? I mean,
He tried, he got a better offer.
He got a better offer. He got an offer he couldn't refuse, I guess. Still, I think he's a guy that would have been worth, you know, giving him some land in St. Louis or something.
thank you.
Go, who's that?
I was going to bring up, we'll play around with this a little bit. What's your feelings on the Cardinals maybe, and I'm not a DH fan by any means either, maybe bringing in an established right-handed hitter that might have a history with the team.
I think I know the guy you're talking about.
You don't win with nostalgia.
So I have been surprised that there's been.
You don't win with nostalgia.
Well, that's the answer over here is you don't win with nostalgia, and I think that's where the Cardinals are landing on that. I'm still surprised by it because I think the Cardinals fan base would. I think you had 50,000 people in the ballpark. Of course, if Albert wasn't playing, then you go home. But you got him there anyway. It's a good point of view.
You make 50,000 people there.
Albert, I was asked the. Here's a question for you all. I was on MLB Network last week, and Eduardo Perez and Steve Phillips asked me for my version of who's on the Cardinals Mount Rushmore of best Cardinals ever. Who's the 4 guys that you would put in stone up on Mount Rushmore? And I'd be interested in what your answers would be. I'll give you mine, but.
Enzo, Brock, and Pujols, and
Molina.
I got Gibson, I hear Molina, I hear Brock, I hear Usual, I hear Willie McGee,
Pujols.
Ozzie, who else? Boyer, Hornsby.
There's only 4 people on Mount Rushmore, guys. So.
Yeah, I want the universe of answers here. You guys are, so who else? Anybody else? You're missing one of them that I put on.
Carpenter.
Red Shaney. So here's now. So I had to, you know, I'm a Cardinal guy, and I got to name 4 people, which means I'm going to make other people mad that I don't name the other people. So I had to really think. I thought a long time about it, and I put Musial and Gibson on any Mount Rushmore for any reason whatsoever. Whatever the category is, those 2 got to be on. So then I started thinking about Hornsby and Pujols both. Spent half of their career as Cardinals, only half. That statistically, those 2 are the best, but they were only a Cardinal for half the time, so they could be on another Mount Rushmore, but instead of the Cardinals. So I did not say Pujols or Hornsby, although I said, based on their, again, career stats, Rogers Hornsby was unbelievable. He was an amazing player, but again, only a Cardinal for 8 or 9 years, maybe 10. So then I had to pick between. And I picked Red Shaney's because he was in a uniform, a Cardinal uniform, a big league uniform for 70 years. And if you don't get to be in Mount Rushmore for 70 years wearing a big league uniform, I mean, and when we talk at Busch Stadium, when we say Gibby, we say Red, we say Stan, we all know who we're talking about. That's how integral they are on the Cardinal baseball scene. So those 3, and then I had to decide between Lou and Ozzie. And I didn't think Ozzie was listening, so I went with Lou. But the only reason
I wasn't listening either.
Yeah, no, I know, right? But no, unfortunately not. But Lou was, you know, Ozzie said they're both Hall of Famers. Lou was just a great ambassador for the Cardinals also, and he was an ambassador for the Cardinals right out of the chute. And I didn't pick Ozzie because for 20 years we never saw him because he and Tony were like that. So he and Tony La Russa didn't talk, so we never saw Ozzie. Ozzie was not really a part of Cardinal baseball for almost 20 years. And so, but Lou was a part of Cardinal baseball from 1960, what?